We begin with developing news out of the Bahamas, where Court TV is covering the murder in paradise plot involving a Georgia mother of 3. Our crew was there as the defendant, Lindsay Shiver, arrived at the police station ahead of her scheduled release today. The 36-year-old is accused of plotting with 2 alleged co-conspirators to have her husband killed months after the couple had filed for divorce. Joining me now live is Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson. I know you've been in the Bahamas. Tell us all the latest, Matt, because we understand that defendant will be released today.
Yeah, and as we're coming on the air, Judge Ashley, just moments ago, a car drove up. She ran out with her manila folder. She jumped in the car. She has been released. No longer inside that notorious Fox Hill prison, about 30 minutes here from the courthouse and also the Central Processing Center, the police station where she spent most of the last 2 days waiting for an ankle monitor and waiting for release. So she was in court earlier today. She was able to provide documents to the court, that $100,000 bond, and also turned over her passport to the U.S. Embassy. And then she was also able to be providing proof that she has now rented a place here on the island because, again, she will stay here until her October court date. Along with her, seated next to her in the middle of the courtroom in a box that was also surrounded by, there is, you know, some, not wires, but there is a box and there is, it's not a cage, but there is bars, and that's where the co-defendants and she had sat listening to the judge and listening to prosecutors. It was Terrence Bethel, her alleged lover, who was right next to her, and Farron Newbold, who wore a mask. He pulled down the mask one time, looked out at the gallery full of media and asked who everybody was with, quite interested in the international coverage there. Meanwhile, all 3 facing charges in the murder-for-hire plot to kill Lindsay's husband, Robert. They were arrested last month after the 2 were in the middle of a bitter custody battle and divorce, Lindsay and her husband, Robert, in Georgia. Again, outside of the courthouse, many times over the last 2 days, I have tried to get Lindsay's attention, asking her questions if she has a message for Robert and her 3 young boys. They're in Georgia. Take a listen. Lindsay, you want to say anything about the allegations? Any message to Robert or the boys?
You hired a hitman. You tried to hire a hitman to kill your husband, Robert.
No comment from the former pageant queen, TikTok star, woman who was a cheerleader and loved all the attention. Nowadays, she's holding a manila folder in front of her face, not wanting to be on international news. Again, she was just released moments ago. Her address not disclosed, but she will be staying close by, Judge Ashley.
Fascinating that really it boiled down to some of the administrative issues that it took a while for her to be released, Matt, knowing she was waiting on that ankle monitor. That's the reality sometimes of the system. Tell me about those co-conspirators. I heard you say that one of them looked at the media and said who wanted to know who everybody was with, but I understand that you actually caught up with them, Matt. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, that was Mr. Newbold that wore the mask on the way into the courthouse. It was quite interesting because he rode with the other co-defendant. Yes, they share an attorney and they're all charged together as co-conspirators. But both he and Terrence Bethel, the alleged lover, were in the back seat of this car. They waited quite some time for Lindsay to make her entrance. When all the media was swarming Lindsay as she walked into the courthouse, that's when they kind of snuck in. But once they were inside, no cameras were allowed in this courthouse, and they all had to sit together. He lowered his mask, the alleged hitman, Farron Newbold, and he did whisper to the media in the front row, "Who are you with? I'm interested. Who's covering the case?" As for Terrence Bethel, he was spending his time locking eyes with his lover, the alleged lover, Lindsay Shiver, and they were touching each other at times. She was giggling. They were looking into each other's eyes. They were all in court today, not speaking except for with their attorneys, whispering with each other, which they were allowed to do, and then answering the court saying, "Yes, ma'am," "No, ma'am." And then after court, I was able to meet up with with Terrence Bethel as he was walking to his car. I again was asking questions, especially given the fact that he says that he's still in love with Lindsay and he would never try to hurt Robert. That's been reported. So I asked him about it. Take a listen. Do you still love Lindsay? What were you guys saying in court today? Would you ever want to hurt Robert, or is this all just accusations with no... Do you have any comment? So again, they were already released with ankle monitors, both the co-defendants, with $20,000 bond each. That happened a few days ago, and as I reported at the top of this report, she was released earlier just a few moments ago with an ankle monitor and $100,000 bond.
All right, I understand that she was driven away by one of her attorneys, and Matt, always appreciate all your great attention to detail and all the new information you always bring to us there, live from the Bahamas. All right, let's now turn to our guests. We want to welcome for this hour criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Marie Pereira. Marie, it is all you and me as we talk about this case. You know, a lot of times we see cases like this where you hear about an alleged plot or a successful plot and you think, why not just get divorced? Well, the reality is she's facing these allegations in the midst of a divorce and a heated custody battle. Tell me your thoughts.
I think that her lawyer should have spoken to her and told her that court TV is on it and she shouldn't be acting all lovey-dovey with her co-defendants. That's number one, because it really doesn't look good, because the media is all over this. The nature of the relationship, you have a married woman who's carrying on with looks like someone who is maybe a little younger than her, definitely not the same race. It just has so much salaciousness to it that it's going to be a problem, and she needs to really lay low in this case because it's going to be tried in the court of public opinion for sure.
It's definitely a bad look. What did you think about the thing I was discussing with Matt, and that is she had to wait 2 days basically to be released. Now we now know that she's just been released. She was whipped away by a car driven by one of her attorneys, but she had to wait for the actual ankle monitor, as we understand it. And you know, that's interesting that you're going to be delayed even further because of that.
Well, absolutely, because, you know, we're in the Bahamas, and I think their technology may be not as swift as technology that you would have in the States. And she has to suffer the consequences just like everyone else. You commit a crime in a country or a state even that doesn't have the same resources as the state that you're, you know, no ankle monitors. It's not every day that someone shows up and gets accused of trying to murder their husband. This is a big deal for this small town.
Yeah, that's a great point, that it is a really big deal, especially in a smaller community. But it's so hard for me sometimes to reconcile. And I know people are going to say, yeah, there are lots of bad people out there who allegedly do things, then proven to do things. But you look at those pictures and it's a beautiful family, right? And beautiful children, and they're looking so lovingly. And I just think it underscores the fact that things can go really south really quickly. But what a wicked edge to then say, well, it goes from that to I'm going to plot to actually have him murdered. Let's just get him out of the way and keep custody of my children. Who thinks that's going to work at the end of the day, Marie?
A lot of people who are appearing on court TV think that at the end of the day, okay? We have the woman who wrote a book about grief when she's alleged to have plotted and murdered her husband. This is what happens all the time. We think about what I always say, stranger danger, but it's usually the ones closest to you who plot to kill you and maybe even kill you. That's why I'm really concerned that they just released them, and it's not a whole lot of bail. You know, all three of them allegedly tried to kill this man. They plotted to kill him. What if they didn't discover those text messages? He could be dead right now. I think bail should have been higher and the conditions should have been stricter for all three of them.
Wow, that's interesting because you're right. He could be dead, and it wasn't that high of a bail, $100,000. She was able to get out. They were able to get out, and now we'll just have to wait for those charges. Matt reported that clearly she has to stay there, so she's renting a place until her next court date in October. That's not really surprising to me, but let's just talk really quickly. The reality of the fact is, a conspiracy to commit murder or attempt to commit murder is a very different charge than an actual murder charge when push comes to shove in the sentencing. If there's a conviction, it's a much lesser offense in my mind in terms of possible consequences.
You know, I agree conspiracy to commit murder is less than murder, but I think the accountability should be the same, because at the end of the day, if the murder plan was not caught in time and aborted by the police, this man would be dead. And these are people with intent to kill other people. And I think they should really sentence them if they're found to be guilty, because at the end of the day, you know what we say, they're cloaked in the presumption of innocence. If they're found guilty, they should face the maximum, because but for the police, that man would be dead right now.
You're right. I don't disagree with you.